Well, hey, everybody. Today I'm here with the legendary author, speaker, trainer, super good guy, affectionately known as number one. I'll let him explain that to you. Allan Pease. How are you, Allan?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
Oh, mate, I miss your face. I think we were on the road last year and then all of a sudden the Wuhan Chinese virus hit us, mate. I mean, what's going on?
Well, yeah, that's right. And I think the reason that so many people are having so much difficulty with all this is they're thinking about what they haven't got or what they've lost. And that's preventing them from thinking about what they could have and what they could do.
Well, all of us have had to pivot and change. I know our business has changed and it's gone skyrocketed up rather than down. But now apparently today you're doing your first live event somewhere in Queensland. Is that right?
Yeah, in northern Queensland, first one today for 8 months. Last one was in Las Vegas with Martin Short, the Three Amigos actor. And that was a Hollywood event as it would be in Bellagio. And now I'm going to country Queensland, which is now the logical next step.
Yep. Well, Allan, how important is it for people right now to really pivot and rethink, as you said, what they can do rather than what they've lost or what they don't have? How important is that?
Well, it's critical. And look, it's a great opportunity. It's a matter of changing your mindset of how you look at it. It's a great opportunity as much as how many times in all of our lives do we get the opportunity to actually sit still without the demands and pressure of day-to-day life and business on us to think about what we might like to do with our lives. So that is the opportunity. And while most of us back at the start thought, well, what are we going to do next? And sometimes we might have even dwelled a bit on what wasn't there, but you've got to get over dwelling on what you've lost in the past or what you don't have. Think, now, what can I do? And this is the first opportunity for many people, certainly in my life, first time ever. Plus, my house is repainted and the garden never looked better. But putting those two small details aside.
How many trips to Bunnings a day do you do? Because I do about 2.
That's right. So it's an opportunity to reset your life and think about what you do want and what you can. And most people don't do that because we know in Australia that the Gallup poll shows that 72% of people, and that's only 3 out of 4 people in Australia, hate their job. You know, on Sunday night they get a knot in the guts because they're thinking to themselves, oh, hell, I've got to go there again tomorrow. And Monday morning they get up saying, oh, gee, I've got to go somewhere where I don't want to go. That's 3 out of 4 people. That's a tragedy. So this is a great opportunity to say, well, what do I really want to do? And it doesn't mean that if you're working somewhere in a job, you go and quit it because you've still got to pay the rent and pay for food. But it means it's an opportunity to think clearly without too much interruption about what you really, really want to do with the rest of your life, what your mission was.
And that's what our Friday event, Passion of Profit's about. I mean, we did that on the road, obviously. We're touring around, you and I and Darren, and had a lot of laughs, but now we've gone on virtual. Allan, you're doing what you love. You're doing what you love. How many years have you been doing it? And I don't lie.
My 52nd year standing in front of audiences talking about it. In fact, my first stand-up was when I was around 11 years of age, when I was in the Cub Scouts, and I taught them how to sell door-to-door to raise money for the Scouts.
Wow.
And that was the first time that they get me to stand in front of groups of 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids and talk about how to knock on doors and what to say when the doors open. So that was I wasn't a paid speaker then. That was my first stand-up. And right throughout my high school career, I used to stand up in class and crack jokes. And I remember my math teacher said to me when I was about 15, he said, your career, P, should be as a professional smart-ass. And he was right.
He's right.
And I said, well, do you know what a smart ass is? He said, yes, you. I said, no, a smart ass is anybody can sit on an ice cream and tell you what flavour it is. So that was really where the class would all fall about laughing. And I loved doing that. And they loved me doing it. The teachers weren't all that impressed, even they did laugh. And so that became my career. I started in 1968 teaching people how to sell face-to-face, door-to-door, because after school I was a door-to-door salesman, knocking on doors and making phone calls, selling pots and pans.
And how many books have you written and how many sales in your books? I mean, I know, but it keeps changing. I mean, you've sold millions and then you've sold other that haven't been paid. How many books have you and Barbara authored together?
Well, we've written 18 top 10 bestsellers and 11 of those have hit #1 internationally. We're in 57 languages, so we're in virtually every country in the world in one form or other, and all the offshoots that come off that. And total sales, well, it's hard to estimate. We've been paid for over 30 million copies, but it's estimated there's probably 60 to 80 million actually in the marketplace, because in many other countries where there's no copyright, they just take the books and they reprint them themselves. And so we know in places like Russia, for example, there's at least 10 million copies of it, at least that we know of, probably more. but we never got paid on those. But again, you think about what's the positive thing you can do here. So what we do with every book that we print, every book that's ever come out, the first page when you open it is a page saying, contact us, go to these websites, attend these seminars, get Allan to come to your meeting. Because when the pirates steal your books, they steal them exactly the way they're printed, because they don't even know what's in there. So in Russia, in anticipation of this, we did this back in 1991 when communism fell and we arrived in Russia. We put that page in the first one, and there's at least 10 million, maybe could it be 20 million, but we don't know. But that little yellow book we printed, the very first one, has been responsible for 3 months of the year of consulting and seminar work in Russian-speaking countries since, because everybody has got that little yellow book.
It's amazing, Allan. We're here in Australia, we're writing books, and yet we can speak to a global audience and have global reach. And now, of course, with the internet and everything else that we have right now, it's so far, so much bigger. Did you ever think back then you'd be doing that for this long and impacting that many people?
Well, I knew that I'd always be doing this, Pat, that's for sure. And I knew I'd be standing in front of audiences, one way or another, whether we didn't have the word virtual back in those days, but I knew I'd always stand up and do it because I loved it, and audiences enjoyed it, and we all had a great time. And everybody benefited. People change their lives and become better. And that's what I really like about speaking, because you know yourself that sometimes you say things that probably don't mean that much to you personally, but they impact on somebody and it changes their life dramatically. And that's really is the big payoff for all of us as speakers, to be able to do that, to be able to have that impact and make people's lives go in a different direction, do things that maybe they never thought about doing or never had the wherewithal or the courage or whatever you need to go and do it. And in terms of going worldwide, well, I figured when I wrote Body Language in the late 70s that I said, if I can sell 10,000 copies of this, it'd be really, really good. That book sold 6 million in the end, and it went internationally. And in terms of going worldwide, I made a decision to go worldwide on this. Once it did so well in Australia, I couldn't get anybody in America to be entertained it at all. I sent 57 letters, because you wrote letters in those days, to the 57 biggest publishers and said, look, here's this book. We'd sold 30,000 at this point. You should have it. It's a well-read book, well written for Americans. You'd love it. And they all said, no, don't call us, we'll call you. Never heard of you, never heard of the subject. So I got on a plane and I flew on a cheapie to New York, and I walked up and down Wall Street for 4 days, knocking on publishers' doors, saying, buy this. And half of them wouldn't even see me, because you, as it turned out, you couldn't just turn up. You had to have an appointment. And then the other half said, we don't deal with authors. We only deal with agents. So I got referred to an agent who said, look, we don't deal with unknowns. And this one agent, after 139 calls I'd made, knocking on doors, talking about it, says, it's all the law of averages. Eventually, something's got to break. He said, go and see this publisher's a mate of mine just starting up, and he might give you a go. And he was impressed with my enthusiasm. He said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And he sold it a month later for $10,000 US to Bantam Books, the biggest in the world. And then it went to 6 million copies and turned into movies and the whole bit. Now, the thing is, you look at that 139 calls, what would happen if I gave up on the 4th call or the 19th or the 26th? And most people give up on the 2nd or 3rd attempt at something. And if you believe it's going to work, whatever your idea, whatever your concept, whether it's a book or whatever it is you've got, if you really believe it, and as speakers, have an advantage, Pat, that we know whether something's going to work, because we're speaking to live audiences and they tell us. They tell us whether or not they like it. So we've got an advantage to know where to go. You really believe in it, you just keep on plugging away at it. And if people say, anybody says to you, well, they don't think it'll work, just don't tell them anymore.
You know, Allan, the other week I was interviewing Peter Switzer, and we were doing a similar thing as a passion prophet this weekend, where those of you out there that are listening, we want to take your passion, your idea, your hobby, and help you monetize it, whether it's full-time, part-time, anytime to monetize it. But Peter said something interesting. He said there's a lot of, ex-teachers or accountants or engineers or mechanics, and they've all got knowledge, and they could have a little side business plugged into something that we do. Allan, my question to you is, what do you say to people, blokes or men, when they go, oh, I'm shy in front of the camera, oh, I wouldn't know how, I wouldn't know where to start, or I don't have that much to say. They put all their yeah buts up there, What do you say to them? Because there's thousands of them out there, and yet they're sitting on a gold mine. What do you say to people like that?
Well, there's hundreds of millions, probably billions, if you think about it, of people who have enormous potential. They have something inside them. They have greatness inside them. Everybody's got greatness inside them. They just don't have a way of being able to tap into what it is. And what I say to any of those, and that was the topic of the answer when I wrote the answer last year with Barb, is that most people in our society, in Western society and European society, anybody, they start from the standpoint of how. How would I get the money? How would I stand up? I'm not much good at this. How would I do this? How would I finance it? How would I whatever? And if you start with the how on any goal, you can forget about it. It's not going to happen. Because if you knew how, you would have done it already, or you'd be doing it now. Where you have to start to get into greatness and to turn whatever passion you've got into profit is what. You've got to decide the what. What is it I want to do, have, or become? And clarify what it is. Now, this sounds simple, but it's actually scary, Pat, because you're making a commitment to what you want to do, have, or become without knowing how. And that actually is pretty scary. However, you've got to have faith in the fact that the part of the brain, this is what we're going to talk about this seminar we've got coming up, part of the brain that determines what you'll see in life, you're programming that with the what, it then searches for the how, just like a Google engine. It's a bit like when you decided to buy whatever car you've got, the minute you made the decision to buy the car, you saw it on every road, everywhere you went is your car. And I had a guy said, I was going to buy a Range Rover. He said, and I made the decision, yes, I'm going to buy one. I didn't know how I was going to finance it, how I was going to get it, but I decided that's what I want. He said, then everywhere I looked the next 2 weeks, every second guy's driving a Range Rover. He said, so I decided to quit. That's 2 minutes on the road. You decide, if you make the decision what, and as I said, this is simple, but it's not easy, and don't start with how. If you decide what, your brain, that's what we'll talk about, the Senate will search the environment to show you the how. Once you decide what, you'll see the how. If you start with the how, you won't see anything, and after 2 or 3 days, you get disillusioned and go back to your normal life, which is where 3 out of 4 Aussies and 3 out of 4 people are. They're going to somewhere they don't want to go to.
You know, Alan, you just reminded me of something that happened to me, and you're that's why I called you number one. You called me number two for other reasons. We won't get into that. Mine's more clean. I called him number one, folks, because we were at a massive IDA convention. There was 12,000 people in there, and you spoke on the questions and the answers. I sat there mesmerized listening to you. You hardly promoted this material, and the lines of people that were punching each other to get over it. And I'm going, and I remember that day I said, that's the kind of result I want when I'm finished speaking. And sure enough, you know, and after that, it wasn't so much in that, but our youth alive work and our drug rehab, and you know, I never got a book rush table like that did, but it put that desire in my heart. And I think Friday, it's a great opportunity for people just to reignite desire and turn their passion to profit. But what I want to ask you is, now you've written the answer, amazing book. I've read it 3 times. And by the way, folks, he's going to be giving away 6 copies, but you've got to turn up. And he don't give away a lot. I think Alan's got part Jewish Irish in him. But tell us just in a nutshell what that book is about, because it's brilliant, life-changing actually.
Well, the basis of it is that there's a part of the brain that we identified, and we've known about this for about 50 odd years, but nobody's really known what to do with it. It's about the size of a golf ball, about like a little golf ball, which is full of neural fibers and nerve endings. It sits at the top of the brainstem at the back, and it's the command center for the brain. So that's the biology, that's the hard part of it. And inside that is an operating system, just like on a computer, called the reticular activating system, that about 1 out of 10 Aussies have ever heard of. Most haven't. And it certainly is the most valuable thing you'll ever hear about. And we'll discuss this at the seminar. And that's the software that searches the environment to look for the how. And so if you put into your RAS, you put into your reticular formation the what. What is it you want to have, do, or become? And then it sounds simple and it sounds scary, but your brain will search for the how. Now, sometimes people call this the yin and the yang. They call it, talking to the universe. They might call it talking to God, to prayer. They might call it goal setting. It's the same process. It all operates through the same hardware in the brain. So what we did with the answer was to show people what it was, what science was behind it, how it works, and then to teach them how to find the what's. And the what is the thing that will get you out of bed tomorrow morning that you love doing so much. In fact, you enjoy it so much, it not only can wait to do it, you do it for free. And if you can identify what that is where your life should go. You should go down that track, because that's what you do. That's what I do. That's what Dan Clark is with us on Friday does. Is we look forward to getting up to going places, and sometimes we don't even know what's going to happen. That's part of the excitement. We don't know a lot of the how. We know the what's, and that's the excitement. Any person can do this when they know the process.
And that's what we're going to teach you guys, every one of you. I know Alan's a busy guy. So on Friday, Passion to Profit, listen very carefully. We've come up with some wonderful incentives. Now, we've got about 70 seats left. Phenomenal response. Number one, Allan is going to give away 6 copies of his books on the day. Plus, every one of you that actually shows up, not just registered, I'm going to gift you all a copy of my best-selling book, How to Have a Millionaire Mindset, which Allan wrote the foreword to. And one more thing we're doing, Allan. You know, everyone wants to get out and have a vacation. I'm going to be giving away 5 family vacations for 4 beautiful 4-star resorts all over Australia, and to 5 people. But they've got to be on that on the web. You can't just register. You got to show up and stay on. So Friday's going to be awesome, Allan. I'm looking forward to hearing Dan Clark.
Yeah, I've known Dan for over 40 years. Yeah, we were good mates in our early 20s in America, and I know Dan, and he is a legend. I mean, Ronald Reagan gave him the Presidential Award for America for Outstanding Young Man back in his 20s.
Wow.
And he's a guy who has achieved such an incredible range of things, from going to space to snorkeling to winning USC in America. He was a football legend. This guy just does everything, and he's a good guy. And his message is powerful. So between you and me and Dan, I can't wait to go myself, and I'm on the program.
Hey, we're going to help a lot of people fulfill their destinies. So guys, register on. There is a link there in this chat. Register. Free. The event is free to you, not free to Allan and I. It costs a lot of money to put this on, but we're going to be giving away a copy of my book to everyone who shows up. 6 copies of Allan's books and 5 vacations. People say, why do you do these incentives? Because people are motivated by recognition and reward. Allan, thanks so much. Looking forward to seeing you and be the 3 amigos, mate. It looks going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be great. I look forward to it, Pat, and I'll see you all there.